liftoff.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Ship It Nation Week 16 Saturday show. We're here breaking down the two-game Saturday slate, big prize pools across the industry, and we kind of talked about it leading up to this at the end of the season. A lot of different slates. You get these two-game slates. You get these the Christmas slates. You'll get a lot more showdown from here on out all the way through the playoffs. These two-game slates are very popular. Prize pools are big, and they're a lot of fun, a little bit different, used to these big slates. We're used to the showdown slates. It's a two-gamer, so a little bit different strategy that needs to be employed. And we'll talk about all that, joined by Title. Initial thoughts here on this two-game slate, and after that, we'll kind of hop into everything.
Yeah, first, so we are not doing the cash. This is in place for the cash show. We will still have the cash cores, like always, late in the year. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of things change, so on Friday, it's a little harder to, like Drake London in. So that we're talking the Saturday, the two-game slate. Well, again, Sunday we'll talk a little bit cash stuff, but get over to Ship It Nation for the cores. Projections are always up, etc. But yeah, I'm excited for these two-game slates. Prizes, like you said, are always good. Staggered start time, which is nice. You get the 5 Eastern and wow, that's 5 Eastern, 9 or 8:20 Eastern, pretty late. Chicago and the Packers. So late swap comes into play. Really big night game. Bears, Packers for the division, for the NFC. Eagles pretty big favorites. Initial thoughts, just like looking at pricing. Double tight end will be relatively popular again. You got some people going to be extraordinarily popular, like Saquon. Looking at the running back room, he's projected like 3.5, 4 points higher than the next biggest. So we'll go position by position. I think that's best. And then we'll touch on FanDuel too, look at pricing to see if anything differs. But yeah, limited player pool. That means it's kind of like a showdown in the sense of it's kind of a dupe game. You can overstack a game. You can leave money like always. We'll go through it. That's my initial thoughts. Really good night game. The first game you can see Commanders only implied for 19 points. Mariota is going to be back there the rest of the year with Daniels out.
Yeah, and I know a lot of times when we talk about these two-game slates, people will really want to, what sort of correlation can I play the defense against my quarterback? Like you can do all that stuff. You can play quarterback +3 with no run back. You can play quarterback +3 with 3 on the other side and just like fully game stack and hope the other game doesn't go off. Defense versus quarterback's totally fine. It's kind of like no holds barred. Like you're in on anything and everything. There's not many sort of builds that I'd be opposed to personally. So that's just kind of one thing to note. And like you said, there's going to be some popular plays as we go on. We're going to go position by position, primarily talk DK, but we'll also go through and see if anything differs over on FanDuel. But a lot of the conversation is definitely applicable to both sites. So starting at the quarterback position, and I have Sabre up. I have our projections, but you can also see Sabre's projections in here as well. The most expensive quarterback is Hurts at $6,900, Jordan Love $57,000, Caleb Williams $55,000, Mariota $5,000. You look at ownership, we're showing Jalen Hurts at 44. Sabre has it at 50, so upper 40s, I'll say. We have Jordan Love at 23%. Sabre has it at 20. We have Caleb Williams at 20. They have it at 19. Mariota 12.5. They have it at 10. So everything's in the same range. It looks like Jalen Hurts is going to be far and away the most popular quarterback, which I guess is somewhat interesting because he hasn't had the best season. But the reason I think he's getting so much ownership is the uncertainty of the other guys like Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Mariota. It's not a good spot for him. So talk through these quarterbacks, your preference, and then one thing I definitely have done in the past, which I don't think I'll be doing here, is on these smaller slates, just eliminate one of these quarterbacks. I don't see myself doing that today. Like I personally plan on playing all of them. So talk through the ownership, these guys, and any kind of strategy that you might be looking to employ here.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement where I will not be Xing any of them out. The thing is 3 of the 4 have rushing upside. Jordan Love is the one that really doesn't, but we have Hurts 28.5 rushing prop, Mariota 28.5 rushing prop, Caleb Williams 18.5, Love all the way down to 8.5. So 3 guys that can run, that can get there with their legs. The big difference between Hurts and the rest is the tush push equity, the rushing touchdown equities, plus 105 to score. And that goes a long way. 1 rushing touchdown. We're seeing these totals pretty low, team totals. Again, 23 we're seeing for the Bears and Green Bay, 26 for the Eagles. 1 rushing touchdown can be enough on this slate. Now, in terms of ownership, Jalen Hurts, we have it at 43%. If that is the case, just looking at the stone, I mean, we have a higher optimal percentage on Jalen Hurts. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a 50. If it's 43, though, I think I just want to get overweight there. We have him projected as we're showing about 4 points higher than the rest. So he's obviously my favorite. But after that, the thing about Mariota, and again, I'm kind of talking through this with you and deciding what I really want to do, is a lot of garbage time. There's opportunity for Mariota. If they get behind 2 touchdowns and he has to drop back a bunch, like looking at the passing attempts prop, that was something I was intrigued about. We had... Let me see. It was all really close on all of them. Jalen Hurts actually had the least amount of passing attempts prop, 28.5, Mariota 29.5, and both Caleb Williams and Jordan Love 31.5. Now, I think when it's all said and done, Mariota probably drops back the most because they're down and they have to throw a lot. And also when it comes to his pass catchers, outside of Terry McLaurin, like they're all really low owned, and you can just go Mariota and Terry. So I think I am going to have, we're showing Mariota at 12%, the least owned quarterback on the slate. I think I like him a decent bit if he is going to be the lowest owned. And then you can easily play Saquon. You can play AJ Brown. You can play Devontae Smith. Like, guys on the Eagles are going to get ownership and not playing Hurts with it, playing Mariota. Hope he gets close to Hurts in projection is a way I think you can get different in that first game when eating chalk. So yeah, I do like Mariota quite a bit. In that second game, I'm worried about the Bears just trying to run the football. I mean, we know Noah Dunze, we know no Luther Burden. They got Monangai, they got Swift. They just want to drop back, hand the ball off as much as they can, 30 plus times in this game, and not have to throw it to Zacchaeus and all these other guys. So I think Hill is my least favorite right now. And Jordan Love, the nice thing about him is he just has, we always talk about it, it's good and bad. There's so many options that he can throw it to. Obviously, it has condensed a little bit with like no Tucker Kraft, but with Jaden Reed back in the mix. You can play Jordan Love, and yeah, Watson will be popular. Jacobs will be pretty popular, but there's other guys you could pair him with to get a little different. So right now, my lean is I'm going to play a lot of Hurts. I think Mariota being the lowest owned is something I'm interested in with his rushing upside, with the possibility they have to drop back a lot being down. And then I'll go Love, Caleb Williams. But yeah, I'm all ears on these 2 game slates too. It's tough.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I mean, I see, you can make a lot of different arguments here for sure. I think I want to lean more on the Green Bay and Chicago stuff offensively. I just look at the Eagles, and their offense has not been great. I think they're at a point where they just want to kind of get to the playoffs and see if they can make a little bit of a run. So to me, like, they're the team that I think would be totally fine winning in some ugly sort of fashion. And Washington is just, to me, like a dead team at this point. And I think Philly can just kind of impose their will and win a nasty game with Saquon. But the thing that's so hard about these 2 game slates, right? Because when you talk fantasy, you're always thinking upside and ceiling and that sort of thing. But like on a 2 game slate like this, you always have to keep in the back of your head, back of your mind, that like at a quarterback, like at the quarterback position, 17 fantasy points could be enough. Like on this slate, 18 could be enough. You might not necessarily see these big ceiling games. So just kind of like circle back on a guy like Hurts. He clearly has the highest floor. It's hard to avoid him. I like Love. I like Caleb Williams. For me, it's naturally going to be less Mariota, but it's like, then he's the lowest owned guy, and he's looking like he's going to be the lowest owned by quite a bit. So that's just a long way of saying I'm probably going to have some sort of exposure to all these guys. And like if I only end up getting like 5% Mariota or something, I'd probably be fine with it. But yeah, the tough part is like 18, 17 could be good enough at the quarterback position. That could be the quarterback that you need. And if it's that sort of slate, it's probably Jalen Hurts is the guy you need up top, if that makes sense. But I don't know. It's kind of a long way of saying I have no strong lean at the position.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the same boat, but we go to like running back, receiver, tight end. Like I'm going to be eating chalk. Like I might have 100% Saquon when it's all said and done, just because the other options at the position. And then like I like AJ. Like I'm going to be eating plenty of chalk at a lot of these other positions. So then it's like, heck, shoot, if I think quarterback's pretty up in the air and I can get a guy that's 1/4, 1/3 of the ownership, and that's what makes me different, maybe I'm just more willing to do that. And I think I am more willing to get a little different at quarterback if I need to, rather than at running back, fading something like Saquon, who's in a tier of his own, or Josh Jacobs. Like I think this position's pretty tough with C-Rod coming back, eating into Merritt stuff, Swift and Monangai, the split, all of that. So yeah, it's a good segue there, but I'm going to be very chalky at this position for sure.
Yeah, and it's tough not to be. Like you look at the option, like Saquon is clearly the time, and really when you look at it, the only guy that's not, in my eyes, going to substantially split carries, the only guy that's really not going to split carries, like even Josh Jacobs, like has the injury thing. I think they're going to be cautious with him. And if this game gets out of hand at all, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull the plug. I don't think he's practiced much. He hasn't practiced at all. I'm worried about it. And he only had 12 rushes last week, a couple targets. Like he's not going to get the ball 20 sometimes, and he's priced more expensive than Saquon Barkley, and he's still getting the ownership. So like to me, like when I start looking at like Josh Jacobs, like that's a spot where I'd be willing to make a play on the slate and not necessarily fade him, but come in way underweight on like a guy like Josh Jacobs. I mean, we're showing 70%. Sabre has it at like 77. A guy that's dinged up that I could see a path to limited carries, like that's where I could just go way underneath that. And that's how you kind of make your moves on the slate. But back to your original point with Saquon, it's hard not to be not all in or anywhere or somewhere close to all in on Saquon. You're almost forced to do it on the slate. The rest of these options are they're tough clicks. Like, so I'm fine being under on Jacobs, like DeAndre Swift, 5,900, fine. I mean, I'm definitely fine with him. You got Monangai, you got C-Rod, like you talked about, Krosky, Merritt. It is just a gross position after Saquon, so it could just be a lock button situation for me, even in 150.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. And your Josh Jacobs point, he's going to be very heavily owned on both sides, but DraftKings, there's more 2 tight ends, 4 receivers builds, and 2-game slate. You're going to see some of that on FanDuel as well, but traditionally you do try and jam in the 3 running backs, which might even leave Jacobs higher owned over there, and you can even fade him. Like if you don't like him on DK, you don't need to like him on FanDuel. If you're worried about his touches, that's very viable, or that's very reasonable, because DraftKings doesn't even have his rushing attempt prop up. They have no one on the Packers. Like they don't want to guess about it. They have Swift 13.5, Monangai 11.5, no one on the Packers side. Then for the Eagles, 18.5 for Barkley, 11.5 for C-Rod, 7.5 Hurts. So that's very pretty concerning. Who knows about Josh Jacobs? Emmanuel Wilson's been really good for him too. So why not feed him as well? And that could lead to more dropbacks for Jordan Love. So I'll probably have 100% Saquon or pretty close to it. I'll probably come in underweight Jacobs, especially if he's 70%. That's a big number. Now, no way am I fading him. He's still minus 135 to score, which is the best on the slate, even better than Saquon. But yeah, there's some concerns there, like we're talking about. After that, my 2 favorites, I think, are just Swift and Monangai. I think they're going to run the ball a ton. Right there, we saw 13.5 rushing attempt prop and 11.5. And I think they both could go over that. We saw what they did to the Bears, just absolutely decimated them on the ground. It kills without 2 of his top 3 receivers on the slates, or 2 of his top 3 receivers. So I think it would be smart to pound the football. I think Ben Johnson will do so at home, and then set up the play action game after that. So I'm fine playing both of them together. If people are asking, it's 5,900, 4,900, which is a pretty big discount from Jacobs and from Saquon. Now, if I do play both together, I'm probably more likely to play a 3 running back build, Saquon, Swift, and Monangai. But I think they can both score once. And if they do, that is enough or possibility enough to be on the optimal. I'm really struggling with the Washington backfield, though, with C-Rod and Croxy Merritt. Merritt played well last week, but obviously C-Rod was out. Now he will be coming back. He was the base guy. He was getting the work when he was healthy and Merritt was healthy. He has the rushing prop at 11 or attempt prop at 11.5. He has a better rushing yard prop, 43.5 versus 27.5. So my lean is to go C-Rod, but he also has like a pretty real price tag, 5,400 right by Swift and Monangai. Merritt's sitting there at 5,200. It's difficult. You play a lot of teams. I think I'd just play C-Rod because what the props are showing, but I'm not confident in it. It's also a tough run D he's going against, and I think they're going to be trailing and throwing the football. And when they do so, that's McNichols more so than C-Rod Merritt. Now, yeah, do you want to play McNichols at 4-4 or Wilson at 4-3? Now we're talking about really large field, a lot of teams. If you're playing 150 and they sprinkle in, sure, you can. We've seen it backup running backs on slates like this, but most people are probably not doing that. And if so, I probably would play 4 running backs, maybe Barkley, Jacobs, Swift, Monangai. But yeah, I think I'll be underweight Jacobs, almost lock Saquon, and I can get overweight. I think on both Swift and Monangai right now is my lean. But I don't love 3 running backs on DraftKings. Actually, I like 4 receivers and 2 tight ends a little more.
Yeah, I'm with you. And like the one thing about these running backs, like after Barkley, like I feel good, obviously coming close to all in with Barkley. Feel good being underweight on Jacobs, whatever that ends up being. If he does end up 70%, I'll probably be substantially underweight on him. And then yeah, like the Chicago guys, I feel pretty good about. And then like with Rodriguez and Krosky Merritt, I'd probably just like see what SaberSim gives me, to be honest, in my 150. And obviously, if I'm getting like 50% C-Rod, I'm going to make some changes. I don't want that much, but I'd imagine I'd have some, just because you look at this position and it's weak. Like 1 touchdown could be enough to be on the winner, be like the running back 2 on the slate after Saquon, assuming he has a solid game. So it is a very tough position, but I do agree with you. Like I'll majority of my builds will have the 4 wide receivers or the 2 tight ends. We'll kind of get into these pass catchers here a little bit. And I guess the big news at the position is on the Chicago side. No Rome Odunze and no Luther Burden, who is kind of emerging as a really solid option in that offense, kind of almost like wide receiver 2. Now they leave DJ Moore out there. Zacchaeus is going to be out there quite a bit, and it gets pretty ugly after that. I mean, they have some tight ends, obviously, that they can throw to, but DJ Moore, as you can see, is going to be very popular at 5,300. You have the 2 Eagles guys, 6,700 for AJ Brown, 57 for Devonta Smith, and you immediately see pricing is so soft on the slate because they haven't priced anyone up. And that's the one issue I have with like these smaller slates. Like the prices need to be relative to the slate. So like whoever is the top wide receiver on the slate has to get a little bit of an increased price tag to make things a little more difficult. And they just don't do that here. The highest priced wide receiver on the slate is AJ Brown at 67. No one else is above 6K on the slate at 59. And, it just loses some game theory stuff on the slate for sure. But when they do that, it's always been an issue, and they clearly are never going to correct it. But the pricing needs to be relative to what sort of slate we're dealing with. And these guys are all just kind of really underpriced. After that, we have, let's see, I talked about the Eagles guys. Christian Watson. We talked about it before the show. Like the injury looked really bad, but it's like all the injuries with Christian Watson look really bad. It looks like he was going to miss time on Sunday, like after that injury. Now it looks like he's playing. Hasn't practiced, but is questionable. All the news is leaning towards him being in. Debo 5,100, Jaden Reed 5K. Sorting by value here, got Zacchaeus showing up, who I do like Zacchaeus quite a bit, and I hope the ownership remains in check. Like 14% to me is pretty low. He's going to be out there a ton. He's had success this season. Even last week he had like 3 targets. I don't think he did anything with those targets, but he'll be on the field. and he's cheap, but it kind of goes back to the overall pricing. Do you really need these super cheap guys to make everything work? And you probably don't, but I'd make sure to play him either way. Like, I think he can actually have a big game here. So a lot of different wide receivers on every team. You have multiple wide receivers that you can play on every team on the slate. So that's kind of goes back to what you said, where it's going to be more interest for me, like four wide receivers or 2 tight ends are the builds that I'll be looking at, just because I can play a ton of these guys and feel pretty comfortable with it.
Yeah, I mean, my favorites are, like you said, the Eagles guys are just mispriced. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, 67.57 is just too cheap. They are showing the highest
Sorry to
owner.
interrupt. I thought Nades joined us, but it was just say. I just looked at the comment, didn't look at the name. Thought it
It's
was
another Wisconsinite, our man Jordan. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be tough to click. Actually, yeah. So I like Brown and Smith a bunch. Those are the only Eagles receivers you have to have interest in. 61%, 50% we're showing. If that's the case, I could easily get overweight to both of them. And again, it kind of goes back to my original point. If you play Mariota in that game is the way, and he gets close to outscoring Hurts, you can play the chalk and Saquon, Smith, Brown, pick 2 of them or whatever. And that's just one way you got difference. I mean, if they score, AJ Brown and Smith both score like 15 DK points, that could be 7 for 80. That doesn't mean Hurts is necessarily getting there. If Saquon gets the rushing touchdowns, Mariota still can outscore him. The Packers stuff, yeah, I guess I'll just jump there because Jordan mentioned it. It's really tough. Assuming Wicks plays, assuming Christian Watson plays, which is what I think. I mean, they're rotating a bunch. It's Dobbs, Wicks, Golden, Watson, and Jaden Reed with a little bit of Bo Melton, but probably not too much. I don't know. Christian Watson is definitely my favorite. I think it's really clear. He's been Love's favorite option. He stretches the field well. And he's playing the most snaps when he's in with Romeo Dobbs and 2 receiver sets. So he's my favorite at 52, but like, yeah, maybe I'll get a little Jaden Reed at 5K, but 27%, almost 30% for a guy that's on the field like 50-something% of the time. I don't know. That's a little concerning. I like Diva more. I like Terry more. I like Smith more. I like AJ Brown more. Romeo Dobbs at 4.7. He's taken the biggest hit since Watson and Reed has come back. His ADOT's a lot smaller than the rest. I don't love him at 10%. And then Golden, Wicks, they're really cheap. I would just play him in Love stuff. You hope that, I mean, Golden, I guess, would be my preferred play, hoping he finally does something. But we've waited for 15 weeks for this guy to get behind the defense and do anything, and he hasn't. So I do not like Packers stuff much. And for Bears stuff, it's DJ Moore and Zacchaeus. But, man, chalk DJ Moore, 50%. Like, this guy has also been irrelevant all year. Yes, there's no Dunze. There's no Luther Burden. He still only has a 3.5 reception prop and 45.5 yards at 50% ownership. Like, I give me Zacchaeus as my preferred play if he's 14%. If he's a third of the ownership and he's $1,800 less. Now, one way you can, if you want to go right to Moore to Zacchaeus and play a chalk team, if he outscores them, you can eliminate a ton of dupes, but you can also just do other stuff and upgrade at other spots. I like Zacchaeus, at ownership, 15% more versus 50%. Give me Zacchaeus in that spot for cheaper, but I don't love really either of them much. Zacchaeus, I guess, at that price, it's hard to not like, but I think the Bears run the heck out of the ball, which is why I like Swift and Monungai a bunch, and it keeps bringing me back to I'm going to be playing more of this Philly-Washington game. I think Terry's a great play. I think Debo's a great play because I think they're going to be down and having to throw the ball quite a bit, and garbage time counts as the same. So, yeah, I definitely prefer the pass catchers in the Eagles-Washington game. I think Smith, AJ, way too cheap. I think Debo, Terry, very strong plays. And then my favorite receivers in the Packers-Bears game at ownership is Watson and Zacchaeus.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's like, like why is everyone just going to Saquon Barkley? Like, he hasn't really done shit this year. Well, it's because the pricing is super soft and there's nobody else to pay for. And like that's
and the running back. You have to play 2 running backs.
And you got to play 2 running backs.
He separates.
And he separates there. That's why I just love like them to do kind of the relative pricing. Like whoever the top running back is on the slate should be somewhere around $9,000. Whoever the top wide receiver is on the slate should be $8,500 range, and then just like go from there. That would bring down the ownership on some of these guys. And like, if you want to get overweight on Saquon, you're almost forced to hit the lock button on him if you're building multiple teams. But I will say, like, just to go back to overall game theory, it's like feel comfortable leaving a lot of money on the table, like big chunks. And, you kind of touched on it a little bit, and it's like just one small example, but like if you're going to single stack Caleb Williams and you got DJ Moore in there, just leave the 1,800 and go down to Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus can outscore DJ Moore. It's not going to be like super unique to do that, but leaving the big chunks, like it can go a long way. And just talking about that stack a little bit more, I think like Caleb Williams to DJ Moore going to be very popular. Obviously, Caleb Williams to DJ Moore and Zacchaeus is probably going to be pretty popular. But going Caleb Williams and just Zacchaeus, I think, is the least popular of all three of those sort of builds. So I like the Zacchaeus thing without DJ Moore. The Packers guys, yeah, I just think they're just much better suited for Jordan Love teams. Like just, when you have Jordan Love in there and you're going to play multiple pass catchers, getting those guys in there, I think makes a ton of sense. I think Debo and McLaurin, I mean, they're obviously both going to be owned, but like you said, they're going to be on the field a ton. I think you said that, or you said something along those lines. Like,
yeah.
they're going to be out there. With the Packers guys, you're almost like guessing. With those guys, they got probably the worst quarterback on the slate, but they're going to be out there and maybe trailing in the game. So I think they're both solid options. And kind of where. And then you don't need to say anything about the Eagles guys. Like we know Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, solid options. So a lot of different ways to go about playing these wide receivers. Going to tight end, really cheap. Like you can't spend at tight end again. And this goes to the point why Saquon Barkley is going to be so highly owned, because you just don't have spends on the slate. You go to tight end, the most expensive guy is 4,100. So just get comfortable leaving a lot of salary on the table. After him, it goes down to Colston Loveland, and then all the way down to Komet at 2,900. So I mean, there's literally nothing you can do here to spend. Just kind of looking at the projections, it's Goddard, Loveland, Komet, Musgrave, Fitzpatrick. It is an ugly ass position. Like this is really nasty. Different things you could maybe do here. We talked about the Caleb Williams stuff. Caleb Williams and DJ Moore would be very popular. What if you play Loveland and Komet together? Like that's one way to get a little bit different. Leave a lot of money on the table, but this is about as ugly as it gets at a position, the tight end. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And what that's going to lead to with them all being so cheap is Goddard and Loveland will be extremely popular. And that kind of also brings me back to why I think Caleb Williams is my least favorite quarterback is when you play him, you're either going to click chalk DJ Moore or chalk Colston Loveland or both of them. And which also is why I like Zacchaeus quite a bit and the running game, because it leverages off all that stuff. You just don't have options. I think there's 4 guys that will be in my pool: Loveland, Goddard, Cole Kmet, Luke Musgrave. Now, Musgrave he had 6 targets last game, 4 the game prior.
Yeah.
Some of them are down the field too. He's actually made a couple plays. So we're showing like 4% ownership at a onesie position that's going to be so heavily concentrated to Goddard and Loveland. Musgrave is someone that I'm looking to get different. And again, it's you play Love and Musgrave. Right there, you're already looking different. I can play A.J. Brown, Saquon, and do whatever I want. And then Cole Kmet, yeah, they've ran a good amount of 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets. He actually outsnapped Colston Loveland last game. Now, yes, he's more of a blocker. Loveland's the pass catcher. But, there's no more direct leverage off of Loveland than Kmet. If Kmet gets the touchdown and it's not Loveland, yeah, you're looking really good. With that being said, Loveland still has the highest reception prop on the Bears, even ahead of DJ Moore. 3.5, a good amount of juice on the over.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yep.
Higher than DJ Moore. Crazy.
Yeah, both 3.5. It was -167 for Loveland and -148 for DJ Moore. And the receiving props are pretty much the same, 45.5, 44.5. So yeah, maybe in 2 tight end builds, if you want to go, or like if you're playing Goddard tight end, plug in DJ Moore, take DJ Moore out, go Colston Loveland. You're pretty much giving up nothing when you do that. So that's one easy way to get different. The problem is, yeah, when people are playing 2 tight ends, it's going to be Goddard, Loveland. So I don't mind doing a Kmet or Musgrave with one of Goddard and Loveland there. Yeah, there's only 4 really. Like John Fitzpatrick, I guess. Like he's going to be on the field a little bit if you really want to get difference. I'd rather go Musgrave. But yeah, at the pricing and stuff, or at ownership, I think Komet and Musgrave is someone that if you get 10% of both of them, you're close to double the field. They'll be on the field. All you probably need is a touchdown. And if it is one of them in the optimal and not Goddard Loveland, you could be looking at a very unique team just with how owned Goddard and Loveland will be across all the bills. Like, I mean, 95% you could be looking at that'll have at least one of Goddard Loveland just due to the position.
Yeah, good. Definitely good analysis there. And the Loveland thing definitely stands out. I mean, DJ Moore, wide receiver one, it leads me to believe that like it could be Loveland. Like he could be the main target. So yeah, good info there. Quickly, we'll touch on defense. The team that's favored by 7 is definitely going to be the most popular. They're the most expensive, but we've already talked about it. You have all the salary in the world to make it work. We're showing 54%, and everything else kind of spread out after that. It's probably tough for the Commanders, I think, to get there with the way I see the Eagles kind of playing it. I would definitely make sure I have a good chunk of the Eagles, not really don't need much Commanders, and then whatever I get with the Packers and the Bears, I'd probably be fine with. So I don't know, nothing too crazy here for me.
Yeah, and again, I'm not building my teams right now and putting it in. So if some of my stuff looks different, like I care about the dupes, the ownership, all that. But right now, my initial thoughts was if Eagles are going to be 55%, I can just go underweight them and be overweight the rest of them. And they're 3,600 versus 2,800, 25, 23 at the highest variance position. So that's my lean right now. If ownership is true and them being the highest price by a good bit, just hope it's anyone but the Eagles on the optimal, and then you can be overweight on all 3. So that's my initial lean right now. But I mean, there's no really rhyme or reason. That's just the game theory part in me.
Yeah, and there's definitely no doubt that the Eagles are going to be very popular. You're going to have the money to play them. They're favored by 7. The opponent's team total is the lowest on the slate. Like, they are going to be the highest owned. So like, there's no debate there. So you can kind of take that info and do what you want with it, but they will be the highest owned on the slate. Let's quickly go over to FanDuel. We'll see if there's any differences. Just pulling it up here at the quarterback. Got Hurts and Love and Williams pretty much same price tag, and then a drop off to Mariota. It looks like maybe a little less ownership on Jalen Hurts than on DK. Mariota appears to be a little closer in ownership to Love and Williams than what we're seeing on DK, but for the most part, pretty similar here.
Yeah, quarterback position. When we get to running back, there is a little different with pricing. Quarterback, though, I'm seeing pretty similar. You do get a bigger discount on Mariota, or it goes farther. He's all the way down. Let me just check. Yeah, 5K. He is on DK, and Jordan Love's 5.7K, so 700 difference. Caleb's in between. Whereas on FanDuel, 7.9 Love, 6.9 Mariota, 7.7 Caleb Williams. So I think that does actually probably maybe lead a little more ownership to Mariota. And you could be seeing Love, Caleb, Mariota maybe a little closer on FanDuel. I don't know. We're kind of showing that as well. 17, 23. My same thoughts, I think, are applying. Caleb's my least favorite just due to the popular pass catchers with him. Love, you have a lot of different options that you can get different with. Mariota, I think, is trailing with rushing upside is the cheapest. And yeah, Hurts is the clear obvious one.
Yeah. All right. We'll go to running back. Saquon Barkley, 8.9. Josh Jacobs, 84. And then a huge drop off down to Monangai. Swift, cheaper than Monangai. That's going to be, the ownership kind of shows that. So 50% Swift. I think Monangai has to get maybe squeezed here a little bit because of the price difference where he's more expensive than Swift. Then you got Krosky Merritt and C-Rod. C-Rod showing up with pretty decent ownership here. Let me make sure we got ours in there. He's getting like 16, Krosky Merritt, 9, Swift, 50. Monangai, I guess, the one thing for sure is Swift cheaper than Monangai. And then, Josh Jacobs, probably harder over here to play based on what I've seen so far on the salaries, play these two together. But same thing, the ownership on Josh Jacobs is, 64%, 63%. Like, yeah, I'll probably, be under over here as well.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, 64%, I would definitely be under. The big thing, like you said, Swift being cheaper than Monangai and 2,200 cheaper than Josh Jacobs, like he's just way too cheap, and ownership reflects that. And just naturally, that makes Monangai for 200 more a phenomenal pivot in GPPs. If it's Monangai scoring and it's not DeAndre Swift, you get a big ownership uh, discount right there with similar upside, similar rushing attempt prop. Another is C-Rod, cheaper than Croxy Merritt, with the projection almost double. 5.8K is cheap on a touchdown dependent site with half point PPR. I think he will be pretty popular. Could see him even over the 15%. And I think Jeremy McNichols is even more in play on FanDuel than DK, which sounds weird since the half point versus full point, but you get a bigger discount on DK. You have Monangai like 4.9K, McNichols 4.4K, whereas you have Swift 6.2, McNichols 4.9. That's 1,300. C-Rod, who's going to be pretty popular, or going to get some ownership 5.8, McNichols 4.9, and it's some leverage off of C-Rod, who's going to be higher owned on FanDuel than DK. So I'm more intrigued to play McNichols and fully punt a running back position, especially if you don't like Jacobs. And if you're not in love with the Washington guys and you think Monangai and Swift eat into each other, maybe 6 is enough. And you can play Hurts and spend up at receiver and get a little different roster construction. Again, especially Saquon 8.9, Jacobs 8.4, AJ Brown 8.8. FanDuel did a little better pricing these guys up so that 4.4 can go longer. So yeah, I think the running back room is the most different on DK compared to FanDuel.
Yeah, so like with the McNichols play, like do you have a way to like differentiate your lineup? Like if you do play him, I guess is a big question. So we've already seen, Saquon a little more expensive relative to where he is on DK. Jalen Hurts is a little bit different now. Like I think it kind of ties right into the wide receivers. And yeah, you see it. AJ Brown is 8,800. Devonta Smith 77. So they have more of real price tags here than they do on DK. So I think like the McNichols play, you can pay it off potentially with getting a different build. Even Debo 75, McLaurin 72. These aren't massive price tags, but on DK, they're just even cheaper, and you don't have to make sacrifices to play these guys. On FanDuel, you do have to make some sacrifices to play him, and that is where a guy like McNichols can come into the conversation. DJ Moore 64. Jaden Reed 6K. We didn't talk about it a ton over on DK, but I do like Jaden Reed. And if Christian Watson is dinged up, like I think Jaden Reed is a very solid option. Probably my favorite pass catcher for the Packers. Let's sort by value, see what shows up. DJ Moore, Watson, Reed, Devonta Smith, AJ Brown. But I will say FanDuel definitely did a better job overall with the pricing. Zacchaeus 53, I like him here just as much over on DK. But you have the same guys, a little more expensive. FanDuel to me looks a little more appealing overall, to be honest.
100%. Like Devonta Smith, AJ Brown are just so easy to fit, and Saquon and Hurts on DK, all of that. Whereas it's not on FanDuel. Again, why I mentioned the McNichols play, I think, is in play. Why Zacchaeus at 5,300, I think, will be a good bit, could be double the ownership on FanDuel to DraftKings, just because you need that down there. They price up the running back. So, yeah, shout out FanDuel continuing to do a better job than DraftKings. Also, again, will lead to AJ Brown, Debo, Smith, even Terry McLaurin, all lower owned, because I think more people will go DJ Moore, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, the more middling builds, because if you want Hurts, if you want Saquon, yeah, you got to save at some position. I think it can even get, if you want to get real crazy, like a Devin Duvernay, a Jalen Lane, Traylon Burks. Again, it's gross. If somehow any of them outscores Zacchaeus, though, you could be looking at a lot less chops. And if you want to spend up for AJ Brown, Saquon, and just go stars and scrubs, again, Jalen Lane and Traylon Burks, if they're trailing and they have to drop back a lot, they'll be on the field and mixing around. 5 points could be enough from them down below. But yeah, I just think, or Romeo Dobbs, Golden, Wicks, all of them in that Reed, DJ Moore, Watson price tag ish. Like people are going to find the 500, the 700 and get to them. If you think any of Dobbs, Golden, Wicks can outscore them, makes it pretty interesting. And again, then brings me back to more Jordan Love builds, because if they do fully get there, they're going to catch a touchdown more than likely. That means Jordan Love's throwing a touchdown on a slate that we don't have a quarterback projected higher than like 20. That means a lot on this slate. So yeah, FanDuel, shout out to FanDuel. definitely will be playing over there regardless, but I think they did a much better job.
Yeah. All right, let's check out tight ends. Probably not much you can do with the tight end position. Like there's it's tough to price these guys up any more than like where they're at. Goddard 59, Loveland 53, Musgrave 5K, Cole Kmet 4,800. I think obviously double tight ends always going to be more appealing on DK. I think you can do it here and might actually make a little more sense here because you're going to be able to get some of those more expensive wide receivers if you do it. But I'm fine double tight end here. It's just a tough position. But just going back to the DK thing as well, like you mentioned Musgrave, and I think Musgrave is a really solid option on this slate. He's clearly going to be coming in way behind Goddard and Loveland. 6 targets last week. Jordan Love had a great connection with Tucker Kraft. Maybe he's starting to develop it a little bit more with Musgrave. To me, I think he's a really good play at, we're showing 10% here. Probably, similar. I can't remember what it was.
Those ownerships can't even be right, though. Like 31 for Goddard, 27 Loveland. Like, there's no way. No one wants to click any of these names outside of Goddard and Loveland. Loveland's 5,300, Musgrave's 5K. Like, you're going to see a 4X ownership discount from, if not more. So, which makes your appeal even more like what you're talking about. But
I like the play. I think it's a solid play for sure.
Yeah. I just like how is Goddard and Loveland here not going to be 90+% owned?
Yeah,
Loveland that close to Ben Sinnott, Luke Musk. Like there's so it makes Cole Kmet, Musgrave again. They're viable in 2 tight end builds. If they fall in the box once, they very well could be optimal. If you just want to play one of them and you think Goddard and Loveland bust, if Loveland scores 6, Goddard scores 6, and Kmet scores 4, it very well could be Cole Kmet on the winner right there. So when you do build those teams, like if you are leaving more than 800 and you're playing Kmet over Loveland, know what you're getting into. You're telling yourself, or it's 500, excuse me. You're saying that he has to outscore him straight up. Maybe not my favorite way to approach it. Maybe leave $400 and do something different. So if he does get outscored by 0.1, like a huge Loveland train is going to be ahead of you and your Kmet stuff's going to be dead. But yeah, Goddard and Loveland are going to be super, super popular on both sites. Yeah. Double tight ends in play, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Defense, I'm assuming, is just about the same. 5K for the Eagles, 44%. Bears, Packers, 45, 43, and then Commanders way down there. And I guess there's so much cheaper where you can probably project a little more ownership, which is what we're showing. So kind of makes sense. I think the conversation that we had on DK for defense is definitely applicable here.
For sure. The thing is, like you said, Commanders, though, like to be honest, I think Commanders might even be higher owned than Packers. They might be second highest owned. And it just comes down to how tight pricing is, or like we talked about, a lot of spend ups. I don't think too many are going to see a difference between Packers, Commanders. Let me save that money. Let me upgrade somewhere else. So Bears, Packers, I think probably the lowest owned. By no means do I ever X out defense, stuff like that. But just thinking Commanders, I think, would be my least favorite on FanDuel just because I think they're over-owned or get clicked on more due to people struggling with their pricing. So like most people, you said they were your least favorite. They're most people's least favored. Going against the biggest favorite in the Eagles. If they're not optimal, I think that could be like 20-25% dead. So yeah, I think I'm more inclined to play Eagles than the other ones on FanDuel, whereas I think Eagles are my least favorite on DK, but it's so random. I'm just trying to figure out ownership mainly.
Yeah. All right. I kind of touched on everything. DK, FanDuel, these 2-game slates, I love them. They're fun. It's a little bit break from Showdown. We will have coverage for the Showdown slate. I think the main one is the Packers and Bears. So that's the featured one. So we'll have content for that. We'll have cores for the 2-game slate. Like you said in the opening, we're kind of doing this in place of the cash show. We'll still have cash core on the website, FanDuel and DraftKings, and then we'll talk about it a little bit Sunday morning. And towards the end of the year, the cash stuff gets a little more difficult because that is when we start to see some of the inactives being impactful on cash plays, and news starts breaking a little later in the week. So for the next 2 weeks, we're going to cover the 2-game slates, and then the final week of the season, everything's together. So everyone plays Sunday at either 1 Eastern or 4 Eastern. So looking forward to these games tomorrow. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, again, just remember late swap. You will have all the information The Eagles Washington game will be over before the Bears and Green Bay starts. SaberSim has their live projections, live ownership if you are on that. But just if you're in cash games, if you're in single entry stuff, you can be scrolling ahead, seeing what's ahead of you, kind of guessing and all of that. Yeah, I'm excited for these. We'll have cash cores for this 2-game slate, normal cores for the 2-game slate, the slate plan, all the content. Again, Showdown, the Stone's up right now. So we'll have you covered like usual. Big prizes, always fun. More football, the better. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Good luck to everyone. Make sure tune in Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. Myself, Title, Tambo, breaking down the main slate, big main slate, I believe. I think 13 games. So make sure to tune in. Good luck to everyone in your contests.